Hello, I'm Joseph, and I'm going to be talking about the thing I hate most about PHP. It's the thing that it's claim to fame. It's super cheap to host. You get a bunch of features for hosting, and it's super easy to deploy. All of that is great for the beginner. You don't have to learn about DevOps or deployment strategies or any of the other stuff, but it leaves open a massive hole for security vulnerabilities. But with that said, I'm just going to show you this real quick. This is GoDaddy. GoDaddy is one of the worst hosting sites I've worked with. If you upload more than maybe like 100 files, you're looking at 30 minutes to hours or days to upload these files. They recommend to upload a zip file and then use their custom control panel to unzip it to your public HTML or something like that. It's how bad it is. And yeah, they offer $6 a month. You have to pay it all up front at once, but you get a website, you get an SSL certificate, which by the way, you shouldn't be paying for this anyways. There's already free SSL providers out there, but you get all this stuff. You get really easy backup systems and all these things. That's why people choose shared hosting. I understand that part of it. You're letting go a lot. There's issues with running things in the background, any long running tasks or CPU intensive or memory uses. All these things come into play that you have a really hard time working around. Okay, so with that said, that's GoDaddy. There's a bunch of other shared hosting options out there you can choose from. You kind of get the idea. Everything I'm going to show here to kind of maybe work around this specific issue is going to require a VPS cloud hosting like Amazon, like Azure or Google Cloud or whatever else, or a dedicated server. VPS Diamond is what I use. It's something I do recommend, but be careful with skipping payments. They have automatic payments set up. Just set it up. Make sure it always gets paid, because I believe like you have like a week to pay it, and then they'll just terminate your site. And so, yeah, pretty important. They have backup that they provide for days. Like you'll set up the backup strategy. You pay a little bit extra to get backups if you really want that, and you don't have to like worry about it. But really cheap. They give a bunch of CPU and RAM to start with, and I've used them with a lot of success. I had like one thing where I had some cryptocurrency running from some WordPress install, and they didn't terminate the site, but they turned it off, and then contacted me saying, hey, blah blah blah. And before they even turned it off, they were like, hey, we're noticing your server is using a lot of CPU. We believe you have some crypto stuff on here. Here's what we looked at. This is the process that's running. You have 3 days to do this, or we're just going to disable your site for now, or after those 3 days. And so that's what happened. Reached out to them. They're really quick on getting back to responses, and I'm not affiliated with them. I don't get any kickback or anything else like that. It's just a service provider that I've used and I've been pretty happy with. Okay, so with that said, the first one I'm going to recommend is the one that kind of sets itself apart from everything, which is Franken PHP. It does a whole bunch of other stuff. It has HTTP 1, 2, and 3 support. It has really easy SSL integration with the free SSL providers. It has direct Laravel integration, stuff like that. If you're going to be using something like Laravel Octane, I believe it works in this as well. And just a really cool platform to run on top of. This alleviates the need for running Apache or Nginx with PHP FPM. I believe it can run with FPM as well. So if you're having some compatibility issues, you can use that along with it. It just probably has some performance hits on it. It does have some limitations or known issues. So that's, for example, what's here when you're using fibers, which if you're using, you probably wouldn't be using fibers offhand, by the way. That's only if you're using like Swole or Swooly or whatever it's called. And so there's some issues that you can't echo inside of a fiber in PHP. But yeah, it's really cool. My big thing is that you can have like an immutable runtime and application, meaning that all your code base and all of your PHP runtime and modules and everything else is embedded into your application, and you run it. And this is all because it's running behind Golang, and it's Golang's kind of runtime kind of claim to fame as well, because it's really easy to deploy a Go application. Roadrunner is its, I guess, runner-up as well, because it does effectively the same thing, but I don't believe it provides the same kind of a immutable runtime that Franken PHP can help you set up and stuff like that. Now, if you are okay with changing your application quite dramatically, then there's something like React PHP. This gives you the experience of like Node.js, and so you're no longer bound to just like uploading a script. You literally need to restart a process. It has a bunch of asynchronous work. You do forgo a lot of stuff. So for example, PDO or PDO, MySQL, you can't run asynchronous. PDO in general, you can't run asynchronous unless it's changed to some more recent version of PHP. That's how it always has been. And you do something like MySQLi, which has support for this in here, or React PHP has support for this in here via a library, and that can allow you to do asynchronous request. Now it is one request per query, so you just can't have a bunch of queries come in and them all stack up via pool or whatever. You need to set that up yourself to make that happen. Now, I'm only recommending or showing React PHP because that's what I have experience with. But Swole or OpenSwole or Swall is a really high performant way to do a lot of the other stuff. It's asynchronous work as well. So just a little bit of a context story here. Async is coroutines. Coroutines does not mean parallel work. You don't really trigger up threads or something else like that to do it. I believe they do have support to do parallel work in that, but you don't. It's not like a free thing that you contribute to. So it's just like coroutines in general is the async and await type of stuff, and it's baked into it, but it does it in a really high performant way, way more high performant than what React PHP can deliver, because React PHP just falls back to like libev and other asynchronous or event loop type of frameworks out there, or backends. Okay, so with that said, there's also Workerman, very similar thing, really high performant as well. I don't want to go too deep into all of these. And the last one, is a little bit of a different change here. I don't think this is saving you any security feature per se, but it gets you out of that PHP FPM cycle, and it does what mod PHP used to do for Apache, but it does that about the highest performance that you're going to get without having to change virtually anything. There are some caveats, so some catches here, because it does introduce some custom functions for doing this here. So you have like rewrite PHP, blah, blah, PHP set, some other things like that are really, really unique to running it with Nginx. And it's probably going to be the exact same issue that you had with mod PHP, which is you do sacrifice memory running this, but you get it at a really, really fast execution time, and it shows. So Workbench or Workbench from Tech Empower shows, for example, that the PHP Nginx Postgres is up top most of the time for everything. It doesn't matter what it is doing, whether it's plain text or not, or even JSON serialization, it's way up there. So, and this is just taking a little bit of bite of some context here. Don't take these benchmarks to heart. This is literally not going to be the slowest part of your application ever. And so it's just worth looking into for all of these as a different way to build your application and to get better security out of it. Obviously, you don't need to commit to any of these things. You can put your source code underneath the public HTML and have one public file, like what Laravel does with like an index.php, and then you have your PHP router to route to these individual files. You can have nothing publicly uploaded to your folders, and you can pick and choose what files are actually mirrored, like Laravel or your Office provide as well. But it's just a little bit of a gotcha for all of these things anyways, and it's nicer to have a way to lock down your application code to make sure it cannot be ran at any other point or changed at any other point than when a developer explicitly allows that to happen.